Welcome back to the Practical Woodsman podcast. I'm Rut, the creator and host of the Practical Woodsman. That's right, it's my immeasurable genius which has brought this all into existence. Scientists are as interested in studying my brain as they are these UAPs. You know what these UAPs are? Unidentified, anomalous phenomena, I think is what it stands for. UFOs. You know, before they invade the planet Earth, it's a good opportunity for us all to make sure that we've got our solar panels and our power banks in our bug out bags, just in case we have to escape off into the woods or the back roads, you know, just like War of the Worlds. Here's something else to keep in mind. Have you ever wondered what the true nature of that would be like? Living off of a portable solar panel and a power bank. How effective is it? What's the routine for, draining this thing and charging it with this thing? Well, come along with me. We're going to mimic a fake scenario where the world has been invaded by these UAPs or UFOs, whichever term you prefer. The aliens are coming, folks, and we're going to head off and see if we can get by with this solar panel and this power bank and see what the true nature of it is. I've got all these different devices here that are rechargeable and that we're going to be dependent on over the next few days. Before we do that, we have to do the musical introduction for the Practical Woodsman, get us all in the mood, winkety, winkety. So don't go nowhere. I'll be right here when that's over.
Put a camp up right here.
Not long ago, I did an exclusive video speaking in general about solar power in your bug out bag. This episode's going to be a little bit different. Instead of just speaking about it in general, I really want to talk about how to solar power your bug out bag and present a realistic scenario for just how you're going to end up using your energy if you're on the move, and how solar power or a solar panel is going to come into play there. And I'll be honest with you, I ain't entirely worked it out for myself yet. So this is kind of me working it out for myself and by extension sharing the process with you. In an emergency, you're probably going to be traveling a lot. So you're going to be on the move a lot. This means that it's going to shorten the times that you're able to actually open up your solar panel and get a charge on your power bank or on your devices. You can see here that I've got a bunch of devices. I've got a radio. I'm using my phone to record this episode, so I can't show you my phone, but I can show you the box that the phone come in. I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max, so that's probably going to be the biggest energy hog. Got my phone. I've got a lantern. This is a lantern that I would use around a camp or along the side of the road or just working at night. Got a rechargeable flashlight. I've got a rechargeable headlamp. I know all these lights have a different purpose. I use them for different primary purposes, but these are things that I do carry in my bug out bag that I do take on excursions into the woods. I've got a set of walkie-talkies. I've got an electric lighter. Let's see. What else I got? I think those are the primary things. So realistically, these are the sorts of things that you might be carrying in a bug out bag. Oh, okay. I also carry that. I don't really carry this in a bug out bag, but I do use this when I go on excursions in the woods. It's a thermometer, but it's also a CO reader. It'll warn me if the CO is too high. It gives me a readout for the moisture in the air. So this is realistically something I take on excursions into the woods, not necessarily in a bug out bag. But what I did was I just pulled out a bunch of the items that I would naturally be carrying in a pack, either in the woods or in a bug out bag. And what we really want to do is we want to put all these items to use just as if we were in an emergency scenario, deplete them a bit, and then try to get a charge back on them. But I want you to take a look at it outside. Look at how gray and rainy it is. That's just the reality of this day, and I did not plan it this way. What I said to myself is, when I do this show, I want to not look at the forecast. I want the forecast to do whatever it's going to do, and I'm going to work with that forecast. So if it rains for the entire time we do this experiment, so be it. But those are real world conditions for what you might face. If you grab a pack, you run out the door, and you're trying to keep these things charged with solar. These are the realities that you might deal with. So we'll see how it goes. So the scenario is this. There's been a serious emergency. I've grabbed my bug out bag and I've run out the door. We're going to assume that I can't be in civilization. So I'm either going to be in the woods or I'm going to be parked along the side of the road somewhere. And these are the tools that I have that require energy. And actually, let's say we're on foot. That way I can't use any of my car battery energy or anything like that. So this is a scenario where I'm on foot, I'm walking, camping out by the side of the road, or I'm walking through the woods, things of that nature. There's another thing I want to tell you about before we get started, is the type of, well, first of all, let me show you the solar panel that I'm using. The solar panel I'm using is a Big Blue 28 watt. As far as size, weight, and efficiency go, the Big Blue 28 watt solar charger is the best that I've experimented with, and I've experimented with many. It's the most efficient. It has charged my stuff faster than even 40 watt solar chargers have. And since we're primarily going to be working off of a battery pack or a power bank, that's the way we're going to do it. But let me show you the solar panel. You open up this compartment here, and that's where you plug into. And from here, you run your cord to your power bank, something like this, to charge up your power bank. So this is the solar panel that I'm going to be using throughout this experiment. This is the actual solar panel that I do keep in my personal bug out bag and that I take with me into the woods. If you're wondering about these three different light types, I have a rule of three, the Practical Woodsman rule of threes, which says you don't go into the woods, you don't prepare a bug out bag with any fewer than three different types of light, with any fewer than three different types or ways of starting fire, and a few other things, without fewer than three different ways of purifying or making water safe to drink. Your lantern here is good for being in a shelter at night, or just bedding down, getting comfortable, using it as a night light, when you're out in the middle of the backcountry, or you're in the woods, or even near a road or something like that. If you're not worried about calling attention to yourself, this is nice to just keep on all night long. Because if you wake up in the middle of the night, then you don't have to go fiddling for a flashlight or anything like that. You can see around your area. If you hear a noise, you can see around your area. And so when I'm on long excursions in the backcountry, I like to run these all night. And so that's what we're going to do with this for our experiment. We're going to run it all night, and then we're going to need to get a charge on it the next morning. All right, but it's got enough battery to it on its own that it should be able to go all night for 3 or 4 different nights without taking an extra charge at all. So that's what a lamp like that is good for. Your headlamp is for work. It's for work and hiking. So if you have to walk at night, you'll want a headlamp. If you're working at night, building fires, building a shelter, doing anything like that, you want a headlamp because it keeps your hands free. It goes on your head. In my experience on excursions out in the woods, your headlamp might get an hour's worth of use per night if you've got a fire going. If you don't have a fire going, It might take even more than that. But let's say that we're going to run this for an hour tonight to duplicate its natural use, like in an emergency situation on a first night. And then finally, your handheld flashlight. This is good for penetrating the woods or for seeing at a long distance. It's for its throw, they call it. So we're going to, you might get an hour. I think that's being liberal with the estimate. Even on when I've gotten started on backpacking trips in the middle of the night, really this only comes out here and there, maybe to try to see where a trail branches off or something like that up in the distance. You hear a noise up in the distance. I might pull this out of my pocket and use it. But so a very liberal estimate will say it'll get an hour's use of worth of use per night. So that's what we're going to mimic. Tonight we're going to run this for an hour. We're going to run the lantern or the lamp all night long. And we're going to use the headlamp for about an hour. Just turn it on, leave it running for an hour so that to mimic those conditions and to deplete these things. My phone currently has a full charge, the one I'm talking to you on right now. So what I'm going to do is for the rest of the day, I'm going to run it without charging it at all. And then at the end of the day, to mimic the conditions of, again, like an emergency. See, here's the scenario. There's been an emergency today, or like an event, social unrest, something like that. I've had to grab my pack. I've had to run out the door. And so today, on this gray day, you can just assume that I'm traveling on foot for the whole day. This evening, we're going to assume that I get into a camp or I wear out and I just need to find some place to sleep for the night. And so I'm going to run these tools tonight as if it's the end of that first day of travel on foot, and we're going to mimic those conditions. Now, at the end of the day, what am I going to want to do? I'm going to want to top my phone off. I'm either going to want to do that at the end of today or in the morning. Yeah, probably both. Probably both, because if you're in an emergency situation, running around with a bug-out bag, you definitely want to top your phone off as often as you can so that it's always got as much of a full charge as possible on its own. So we'll do that. Walkie-talkies.
Power on.
We're going to run those for, let's say, 2 hours this evening. We'll run the walkie-talkies. I don't know how much charge they've got on them. I picked these up. They've just been sitting around. We're just going to run them for an hour tonight and then try to get a charge back on those. The radio. Surely, in the scenario that I'm presenting here, at the end of the day, I'm going to be running this radio. I don't know how much of a charge it's got on it. We're going to run the radio tonight. It's got a weather band to it. We're also going to try to listen to some news reports. And we'll run it, again, just as if we were in a true emergency situation. And then we'll have to worry about getting a charge back on that, won't we? And finally, my electric lighter. Of course, that's for starting fires. There's some other tools that I use for starting fires. Remember, the Practical Woodsman Rule of 3 says you don't load a bug-out bag without at least 3 different types of ways of starting fire. But here's the one that requires an electric charge. So we're going to try to deplete that a little bit tonight as if we were trying to get a fire started in the middle of all this rain and we don't have tinder and stuff like that already pre-made for us or pre-packed. And so we'll try to deplete that. Then we'll try to get a charge back on that. And we'll just see how this all works using only our solar Big Blue 28-watt solar panel. The very last thing I want to talk about before we get started on this experiment is the type of power banks. The type of power bank that I'm choosing to use. In the past, I've really sung the praises of these outdoor power banks, and I just got this one here recently, and I love it. It's just the right size. They're making them ever more compact. It's got a few gimmicky things on it, but most of all, they've designed this thing just really, really nice and compact and put only the things that are really important on it. For example, it's got all of its own cords here on the back, all of its own different types of connectors. I love that. It's a high capacity. I think this is like a 33,000 milliamp hour, 38,000 milliamp hour power bank. Love that. But here's what I don't love. When when you're depending on these things, these dot power indicators are just crap. They're just crap. You don't know how much, you don't know what that's saying right there. You don't know if that thing is 20% depleted or what it is. You don't know. And when you go to charge it, you don't know how quickly it's charging. The best you can do is guess. And I hate that. Because let's say that you're in an emergency situation and you're parked by the side of the road, or you're camped out by the side of the road, or you're in the woods, or you're just right on the edges of town. And you wake up in the morning, you want to get a charge back on this thing, but you say to yourself, I don't really want to stick around here any longer than I have to. But let's go ahead and plug this into the solar charger and anything, see what we can do with it. And you're waiting there, watching this thing flash here, and you don't know. You don't know how much. Let's say you've got it sitting there for a half hour, and you come back to check it in a half hour. You're anxious to get moving and get out of there. You don't know how much power your solar panel has charged this thing, because there's no numbers, no specific numbers there to indicate it. So what I've gone to doing is using a power bank like this that has an actual number indicator on there. You can see this thing's got an entirely full charge right now. But another thing is this. You see what it says down at the bottom? 22.5 watts is what that says at the bottom. What's that mean? It means this is fast charging. First of all, it's a beast of a power bank. I think this is a 50,000 milliamp hour power bank. But it's not only got a huge capacity, it's fast charging. It'll put out a bunch of watts, which means that it should charge your devices faster than if you were using something like this. You know, another thing I love about these outdoor power banks is that they've got all the ports closed. All of the ports are sealed like that, which make them great for being in a bug out bag, in the weather, and things of that nature. But I think I'll take my chances with these open ports, higher power bank capacity, fast charge, 22.5 watts. You know, it's a shame. Once these outdoor power banks get an actual number reader on them, I'll go straight to them because I love the qualities that they offer. But until they get that number readout like this here, I'm not interested in them. One last and final thing before we get this experiment on the road is that I have invested in an actual quick charge cable. This can handle 100 watts, and it's got every major type of connector built into it. All right. So offers many multiple different ways of charging, many multiple different types of devices to charge. And here's the booklet for that. I'll just show you what it says here. Again, it can handle 100 watts. So that's what we're going to be using for all of these experiments. And what do you say? Let's get this show on the road. Got to let some time pass. Got to let my phone deplete. This evening we'll start turning on these devices, using them as would be reasonable in a real situation where you're working out of a bug out bag on a first night. And then we'll start depleting, charging off this power bank here, and then trying to recharge the power bank with the sun, whatever we get over the next 3 days. Follow me along. Well, here we are. We can pretend like it's been a long day of foot travel, scary, stressful situation. There's been some kind of social unrest or a natural disaster or something like that, and here we are. Been traveling all day. What I had to do was I just had to grab my bug out bag, take off, made it in my car for a little while, but then I had to ditch the car and go up through the woods. And now, here we are with my lantern. And so we're running the lantern. Let's see if we can make that bright. You know, one of the things about this is that the brighter you make your lantern, the shorter life that battery's going to have, which means the more you're going to have to charge that the next day. So those are all things you got to think about, aren't they? It's brighter right now so that you can see me. I don't ever run it that bright, so let's lower that brightness. And I'll tell you the reason why I never run it that bright is because I want to preserve the battery as much as possible. So if I run it like that, then it'll run for 3 or 4 days all night long on that intensity. What else we got here? Well, we've got this radio. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is that this radio is a crank radio. But who's really got the energy and the time to sit and crank that thing for an hour and a half to completely charge the battery up? Let's use the radio to check in on the weather and some news reports, because we're scared, we're stressed out, want to know what's going on in the world, want to keep up to date, right? So we raise the antenna right there. Okay, it's on the weather band right now. It does have a charge.
Likely in the afternoon. Highs in the lower 40s. Chance of precipitation 70%. Friday night, mostly cloudy.
So we're going to
Showers likely.
keep running the radio as we do some work around our camp.
Chance of rain 60%.
As we travel tomorrow, we're going to want to be able to get into camp and turn this thing back on again and check in with world conditions, see what's going on.
50% chance of rain. Northeast Kentucky, northern Kentucky, isolated wind gusts around.
Okay, so we're going to keep that plan. We've got our lamp going. Remember, I've been moving on foot all day today, theoretically. In our imaginations, I've been moving on foot all day long. I'm just now getting a chance to sit down in the dark somewhere in the woods and rest. Let's see where my phone is at. I've been using it all day. It's only at 74%. All right, 74% on my phone. But what I want to do is I want to try to top that off. Here's the power bank. We need my fast charge cord. Remember, we're starting off with this power bank at 100%. And I've got my high-speed cable right here. But this is not the only cable that I have. I have some other cables too, so we can charge several things at a time. All right, so we're charging at 74%, and it's 9:45. But what we want to do really is we want to top it off tonight. Charging my phone. This is the first night, remember, of our little adventure here, of our little freak out, stress out adventure. Okay, our headlamp. So now that I'm around camp, we're going to want to turn that on. And we can assume, since it's been dark for a while, that I've been using that to hike for a little bit. So we're going to leave that on for a little bit, let that deplete. Let's see here. Our lighter. Surely we've tried to get a fire started tonight, perhaps, if we're not worried about drawing attention to ourselves. It's been rainy and wet all day long, so let's just keep running that for a little bit. You know, the thing about these electric lighters is that they'll hold a charge for a long, long time. I mean, this thing has been in storage for a long time. So even if I ran this for 20 minutes or so like that, that would be enough to, that would be surely enough to get a fire going even with the wettest materials. But we're wanting to deplete it as much as possible because we want to understand how our power bank works. Depleting and charging, depleting and charging. What's that routine going to look like with our power bank, and what's going to happen? I haven't seen the forecast tomorrow. Of course, I know it's playing right there on the weather radio, but I'm trying not to listen to it. What's the weather going to look like tomorrow? We don't know. And so we have to keep that in mind, don't we? We don't want to deplete our power bank so much. We don't want to completely deplete it. And we don't want to get to a point where all of our stuff is depleted and our power bank is also depleted, do we? I'll tell you, I am cheating. I've got a glass of wine here tonight. I probably wouldn't have that in a end of the world type of situation, but flashlight. Turned on medium. And we'll just run that for an hour, like we said we were going to. And that's a very liberal way of using that light. Remember, we've still got the headlamp running too. So what time is it? It was 9:45. Let's set a timer At 10:45, we'll turn those things off. Timer, 1 hour. All right, 1 hour timer set. And what else do we got to charge? We're running our lantern all night long. This one we got to run all night long. Flashlight goes for an hour. Headlamp goes for an hour. And the walkie-talkies too.
Power on. 5.
Are there any aliens out there that can hear me? No aliens? No aliens? All right. Well, we're going to keep those on. You know, really, because I'm not broadcasting on them. Broadcasting is really what uses the battery. I think what we'll do is we'll leave those on all night too. If we were in a real situation of emergency, is there any other device that I would realistically be using that would be depleting power that I would have to recharge later? Let's do a quick run through. Headlamp, lantern. Lantern's going to run all night. Headlamp's going to run for an hour. Electric lighter. I think I've run it long enough that we would have had a fire going by now. Walkie-talkies are on. We're going to leave those on all night. Oh, this thing here, my device for reading temperatures and stuff like that. We'll turn that on. We'll run that all night. My phone is on. All right, let's take a break. Let's you and I take a break, and we'll check back in here in an hour. In an hour, that would be like we've got our fire, got our camp going and everything. Got this radio playing. The radio's going to play for an hour, and then I'm going to shut that off when I go to bed. Well, so I'll check in with you in an hour. Let's just put it at that. All right? Don't go nowhere. All right. Believe it or not, it's been an hour. We're going to shut this radio off. And it doesn't have any indicators to tell me how much battery power I've got left on that little emergency radio. But it's done us good. We've got to hear the forecast. What we might do tomorrow is check with like maybe news reports on the FM and the AM band. But right now we're going to close that down. Let's check our phone. Where's my phone at? My phone's at 100%. And our power bank is at 92%. 92%. Now, that might not sound too bad, but remember, we've been running this lantern. We've been running my flashlight for an hour. And, you got to imagine, or you got to pretend, like I've just been working around camp. And while we've been hiking through the dark and stuff, I've been using this flashlight. All the combined times that I've turned it on has been an hour. And I've been using this headlamp for a combined period of time for an hour. So we're going to turn off the flashlight or the headlamp. We're going to turn off the flashlight. Remember, we're running the lantern all night long. I think it's on the lowest setting right now. Let's make sure of that. All right, so there's the lowest setting for the lantern. We're going to run that all night because I want to be able to see around myself tonight in the middle of the night if I were to get up or anything like that. Another thing we're running all night is this thing, just because it's not a big deal. I'm going to leave that hanging inside my shelter or next to my bedding, and that way in the middle of the night I can get up and I can check that. I can see what the temperature is, and I can see what the humidity in the air is. And the reason why we're going to leave that on is because realistically, there are going to be things that are just not that important to you on a first stressful night when the aliens invade. And so we're just camped out in the woods somewhere, and we're going to leave these walkie-talkies on all night too. Do you remember the reason why I said we're going to leave the walkie-talkies on all night, even though we're not using them? Because we're trying to mimic how much depletion would happen with these things under normal use in these sorts of circumstances. And the reality is, I don't need the walkie-talkies while I'm sleeping, but they really deplete power the most when you're transmitting on them. So that's why we're running them all night. We're trying to make up for the fact that we're not transmitting on them. Phone is fully charged, so we're going to unplug that. We got a full charge that we're going to sleep with. Now, there's a couple of things I can do here. If I want to wake up with almost a 100% charged phone, which would probably be the smartest thing to do, what I want to do is I want to power this thing off completely. I'm not talking about just turning the screen off. I'm talking about this, powering the thing off completely, because then it's not using hardly any battery. I might wake up and it might be still at 99% charge. I'm not going to do that for this test run of these things. I'm gonna leave it running. Maybe while I'm bedding down, I'm checking my phone. Maybe the internet's still working. Maybe I'm still able to get text messages out. Maybe I'm separated from people I love and I want their text messages to come through or their calls to be able to come through. So I don't want to power my phone down all the way. So I'm going to leave it on. I'm just not going to be using it a whole lot. I'm going to go to bed and get some much needed rest. That's it. First night after the aliens invade and I'm camped out in the woods or in a cave somewhere, that's what we've done. We've simply used my battery backup, my power bank, to charge my phone. And now my power bank, which is all the power reserve that I have, is now down to 91%. Only on the first night. And this is a 50,000 milliamp hour power bank. It's a brick. Our goal now with our solar panel is in moments of daylight and in moments of opportunity to get to recuperate as much charge back onto our power bank as we possibly can. Well, we can't do it tonight, can we? It's completely dark. So here's where we're leaving things. We're going to bed. We're going to get some rest, because rest is very important in survival situations, aren't they? Yes, they are. Not only for the energy, we don't know how many miles we're going to have to walk tomorrow, how much work we're going to have to do, but also because of clear thinking. We're under a lot of stress. We want to be able to think as clearly as possible, make the best decisions in what might be dangerous circumstances, stressful circumstances. So we definitely want to get a good night's sleep. And tomorrow we're going to get up, and what will we have to do tomorrow? Not only will we want to top off our electronics with a full charge. Remember, the best thing you want to do is keep everything at a topped off. And you don't want to run your power bank down to zero doing it. So we're trying to top things off, and at the same time we're trying to recuperate that energy, that power. So tomorrow's going to be interesting. Don't go nowhere. Stick with me throughout this. We'll see how it goes. Well, good morning. Here we are on the second day after the aliens have invaded. And as you can see, you and I have woke up to a pretty gray day. But we want to get out of here. We don't want to stay in one place because things are scary still, and we want to get on the move, pack our things up and get moving. Try to keep ahead of whatever dangerous environment we've had thrown upon us. So we might spend maybe 30 minutes getting some food into us, packing things up, that sort of thing. But another thing we want to do is we want to check where our devices are at. Our flashlights, everything that we siphoned energy from last night. Because tonight, when we get into our next camp, hopefully before dark, but maybe after dark, we're going to want to be able to top everything off again. So let's see where my phone's at. My phone is at 96% this morning. 96%, that's not too bad. But while I'm doing some work around my camp, packing up and stuff like that, I still want to get my solar panel out and try to top some of these things off. Where's our power bank at? Our power bank is at 91%. Now, this is our lifeblood. The walkie-talkies are still on. Where's my lamp? Remember, I run this all night long last night. I really did. Let's check where it's at. See the indicator there at the bottom? It says it's still got a full charge. So I ran it on the lowest setting all night long, and it says it's still got a full charge. Now, I'm not sure how much I believe that, but this thing does hold up pretty good. I think I told you last night that it's starting to rain. It's actually raining right now. So this is just like a real life situation, poo-poo hitting the fan situations aren't only going to occur in favorable weather. So it's good that we've got this rain and these rainy days, or these gray days. But because it's raining right now, I can't even put my solar panel out there to top off my battery. We'll see if the rain stops here in a minute, and if it does, then we will go out. And even with this gray overcast day, we're going to see if we can get a little bit of charge, recuperate some of the charge back onto our power bank. What else? All right, my phone. And I'll tell you what we can do while we're waiting for that. We do want to top off my phone. Get off my power bank, get that back up to 100% so that I've got 100% charge starting out. Don't know how much I'm going to be using my phone during the day. We'll top that off, and then what we'll try to do is try to top off this power bank. And then what we'll do this evening is we will, whatever we've got on our power bank, try to top off our devices. 96%. Power bank is at 91%. So I'm going to let my phone charge up to 100% there. And then once that happens, if it's not raining outside, we will take the solar panel out and see how much charge we can recuperate on our power bank. Now, it has stopped raining, but something has occurred to me. As we're hiking along today, we're probably going to want to be able to use these walkie-talkies. And remember, we drained them a lot yesterday, run them all night long because we weren't transmitting on them. But as we're hiking along, if we've got somebody in our group, we're probably going to be transmitting on these all day long. So we want to get a fresh charge on these. So I've been charging my phone, trying to get it topped off, but it's got a high charge to it. So what we're going to do is pull out some other cables here in order to charge our walkie-talkies. They take a USB-C. It doesn't read as charging. That does read as charging. All right, so that's why you want to test out your cords before you get into a place where you need to charge things. You want to make sure that the cords you're using are actually charging your devices. Okay, so got both walkie-talkies right now charging off the power bank. So that's definitely what we want to do. We want to charge our devices off our power bank first thing in the morning, and then we want to still have time to get our power bank out into the sun, hooked up to our solar charger. What else do we want to charge? Let's go ahead and try to charge our lamp up here. I'll tell you, more important than the lamp is the flashlight. So let's try to get our flashlight charged up to snuff off the power bank. And then the only thing that would be left would be to top off our power bank. That's how to do it. God dang. Yeah, all right. So everything's charging now. So we'll leave those things charging, and then we'll do what I intended earlier. We'll try to top off our power bank and see how that goes on a cloudy day. Let's take a look at what we've got currently charging. Here's the power bank. Everything depends on that and our solar panel. And currently off the power bank, we're charging our walkies and we're charging our flashlight, because I've determined that these things are probably the most important things that we're going to need throughout the day. And it looks like maybe the flashlight is already done. Maybe. I don't know. You want to keep checking these things to make sure that they're actually charging. That light goes off, it means it stops charging. This light right here. Same thing with the walkies. That light right there goes off, it means that they've stopped charging. And I think they should turn green if they stop charging because they're complete. But if the light just goes off, that doesn't necessarily mean that they stop charging because they're full. It might just mean that there's something wrong with the charge. So anyway, you can see our storage going down here. Let me show you the capacity of this thing. There we go. You have 50,000 milliamp hours. All right, well, the good news is that the sun has poked out. So as soon as we finish topping off these things, then we're gonna try to recuperate what we've drained out of this with our solar panel. All right, we got to talk about the reality of this situation now. It's been an hour, and things are still charging here. And they haven't been charging consistently. So, for example, you just saw me unplug this walkie-talkie and plug it back in. That's because it wasn't indicating that it was charging, nor is the flashlight indicating that it's charging. But watch what happens when I unplug it. Okay, I unplug it, and now I plug it back in. See the light comes back on? That's indicating that now it's charging. There's something about this setup here with my power bank, when I've got these three things charging, that after a while it stops charging my devices. And this is something that I've noticed happen with other power banks that I have. So it's not just this power bank. I noticed this happen also with solar chargers and stuff. But anyway, let's say that these things weren't turning off. We'd still have a problem because it's been an hour. And remember what we wanted to do? We wanted to get packed up and get back on the move. And we also wanted to have time to put our solar panel out and recuperate the drain on this power bank. And that's not going to happen this morning. Also, let me show you something else we've got going on right now. Got a storm blowing in. Let me show you. That's what's going on right now. So, even though the sun poked its head out there for a minute, I did not get time to get my solar panel out there to charge this, and we got to get moving. So again, we're in an imaginary situation here where we got to stay on the move. So we've already overstayed our welcome in camp this morning. We got to get moving. And what that means is that this morning, all I'm going to be able to do with this power bank is drain it by charging some of my other devices. I could even load this up in my pack and have this charging within my pack, have this charging things in my pack as I'm on foot. But as far as being able to get the solar panel out this morning and recuperate a charge on my power bank, it's not going to happen. So the next opportunity I might have is at a lunch break, or a break sometime in the middle of the day, and perhaps maybe this evening. But this is just the reality of working with solar panels out in the backcountry or in a bug out bag, is that you end up draining them often faster than you can recuperate the charge with your solar panel. But what we're going to do here is pretend like we're packing up and moving on. That means disconnecting all this stuff, packing this away, and then looking for an opportunity later on today to see if I can't hook this to my solar panel and recuperate some of the charge that some of the energy, that we've siphoned out of it. Nasty looking outside. Well, here we are. It's been a long, long day running from the aliens, the alien invasion. So I packed up, threw my pack over my shoulder, and I set off down the road, cut into some trees, hiked down through the woods for all day long, trying to get away from all the chaos and the craziness of our imaginary emergency alien invasion situation. And it never got better, the weather. It got worse. I'll tell you, that storm that hopped up on me earlier today, that was because the temperatures dropped from 60 degrees Fahrenheit down to 34 degrees Fahrenheit. So the temperature plummeted 30 degrees just in the time that I was working on the video this morning, and you saw how that affected the weather. It brought a winter storm in. So now it's cold and rainy and everything. Let's see where my phone's at. My phone is at 64%. So I've been using it all day. Of course, we did some charging of our devices today with our power bank. Let's see where that left our power bank at. 87% of 50,000 milliamp hours. Isn't it interesting that, well, I'll tell you the irony of this. The irony is that we'd just come out of a summer where we had a drought, summer-long drought. That meant that almost every day for 3 months, I had sunshine coming out of my ears. Sunshine. Every day with sunshine. Not a cloud in the sky for 3 months. And now here, I go to make this video about how to cycle using your power bank and, that's right, your solar panel. And from the moment I start, not a lick of really usable sunlight. Now, today I was going to try to charge with the solar panel with the diffused cloudy sunlight that we had. And I never got to do that because it started raining. And it was raining and nasty. Of course, I couldn't have my battery and my solar panel sitting out in the pouring rain. So never got to do that. And guess what? I broke down and went ahead and looked at the forecast for tomorrow. You know what we're supposed to have in the morning? Snow showers. So another gray day, snow falling. It'll be a miracle if I get any time tomorrow to set out my solar panel and try to get a slight, try to slightly recuperate the drain on my power bank. Well, you might be saying, it's not too bad. Your power bank's still at 87%. That's true, but what do I got to do with my phone tonight? I want to top that off. I'm at 63%. Let's go ahead and plug that in. Get that charging. And what about my other things? My other things have not been able to have a charge. I did charge the walkie-talkies the best that I could, and I'll charge those up tonight. So that's going to put our power bank tomorrow starting off pretty low. Starting to get pretty low. How many days has it been? Tomorrow morning will be the third day. So really the purpose of all this has been to really illustrate, there's my lamp, I'm going to run my lamp all night again tonight. It's to illustrate how just the real nature of working with a solar thing, when you're on foot, moving, and there's something as scary as an alien invasion happening, like we're dealing with right now. Wink, wink. And so that this video is not a failure. The whole purpose of this video is not a failure. It's in fact highlighting exactly what I wanted to highlight, which is don't get these fantastical false notions in your head about the usefulness of your solar panel in an emergency bag or even in a backpacking bag, because how you're imagining it's going to work doesn't work like that. And you might be wondering, why haven't I demonstrated doing what I'm sure you've seen in every picture of every portable solar panel you've ever seen? Namely, why don't I just drape that off the back of my backpack while I'm hiking all day and then let that charge up my power bank? Because that doesn't work. I've done that. It doesn't work. That is false advertising. Fake news, call it what you want. It's false advertising. I have tried that. I've told this story many times. The last time I tried it, I hiked, folks, I'm not kidding you, I hiked all day with this same solar panel hanging off the back of my backpack on the brightest day you could possibly imagine, about this time of year. It was, about this time of year, November. I was in the mountains in Pennsylvania, and snow was blanketing everything. You know what that means? It means the sun was not only bright in the sky, but it was shining and bouncing off. That light was bouncing off all that snow and striking me all day long. And do you know that after hiking all day with that solar panel draped off the back of my backpack, I only got maybe an 8%. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was such a little amount on my power bank. A whole day of hanging that thing off the back of my backpack. And I think it only jumped my power bank up like 8% or something like that. Now, it's true, 8% ain't nothing. But it's not worth the hassle. 8% does not justify walking around and dealing with that thing hanging off the back of your backpack all day long. It does not justify it. I could get 8% charge on my power bank in a half hour, easy in a half hour, with just by taking a half hour to set up my solar panel the right way in direct sunlight. You'll get a charge fast with this 28 watt solar charger. So really, it's just a matter of, is the sunlight there for you to do that or not? And another thing, keep in mind, do you know what the best time of the day to get the premium sunlight is? It's like at noon. Well, what else is happening like at noon? Well, in an emergency situation, that's when you're on the move. That's really when you're on the move. So who's got an hour to just sit around when there's danger or scary things happening and you're trying to get away from it? Who's got an hour just to sit around at noon waiting for, with your stuff all spread out, waiting for your power bank to charge up? It doesn't work like in the movies. It doesn't work like in the advertisements for these solar panels on Amazon or wherever else you're buying them. I have yet to see a portable solar panel where that is not strongly implied, that, oh, look at this. You can just hang it off your backpack. You can really charge your stuff up. Doesn't work. So that's why I haven't done that. That's not real life. This is real life. Even though it's a concocted scenario and everything, and I haven't really been hiking 10 miles a day. Even though it's concocted and all that, the way I'm presenting this to you is just the reality of the thing. I mean, unless you live out in Arizona or down in Florida or something where you just got sunshine, coming out of your pores, because you never see clouds except for maybe an hour every day, like down there in Florida. If you're in other parts of the world where you get all four seasons and stuff like that, the conditions that I'm dealing with right now are the conditions that you can expect to deal with anytime you... Now, I'm not trying to discourage you, by the way. I'm not trying to discourage you from carrying a solar panel. I carry one even so, because who knows how long this alien invasion is going to last, and it can't rain all the time, can it? And so eventually I will get an opportunity, maybe not by the end of this video, but eventually, let's say that I was in a real situation like this, eventually I would get an opportunity to spread this thing out in brilliant, perfectly clear sunlight and completely charge my power bank right back up, charge all my devices back up. I just don't know how many days that's going to be. And so that's the true nature of carrying these things in a bug out bag or in a backpack for backpacking. So what are we going to do tonight? Tonight I'm going to completely top off my phone, get that all charged back up. I'm going to run my lantern here all night again. It hasn't gotten remember, I wasn't able to recharge it. What we do need to do is find my flashlight. We're going to turn the walkie-talkies on again.
Power on. 5.
Both of them. We're going to
Power on. 5.
leave those on all night long. Electric lighter should be all right. Let's listen to the radio here. We want to use these things just like we really would. There's my flashlight. All right, so we're going to run that for an hour. Going to run this radio for an hour.
Highs in the upper 50s.
Highs in the upper 50s. I don't think that's for me, because that's not what I've seen in the forecast. Okay, so anyway, we're going to run that weather radio for an hour. We want to mimic the conditions of like us actually out in the middle of nowhere. In a camp. Just trying to make it through the night, get some sleep. Okay, there's the headlamp. All right, so just like we did the first night, going to run this for an hour. Let these things sit here for an hour, and then I'm going to come back, check in. All right, we're back. Let me get that radio. Okay, so I've been running that for the past hour. It's been an hour since the last time you and I talked. And I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed. I come back, I've just had this power bank and my phone sitting there. I trusted it was charging. And I don't know what happened. I come back and the thing had shut off. So my phone is still at 62%, and the power bank is at only 87%. I don't remember what we left it off at. But that's an ongoing issue, not just with this power bank. Now, there might be some of you out there who understand what's going on here. I'm using what I think is a very capable cable. I'm using a fast charging power bank, and it just can't be. This is an ongoing issue that I've been dealing with for years, and I don't have an answer for it. So if somebody out there watching this understands what's going on, please, by all means, educate the rest of us, me included. You plug several things into your power bank, or even just one thing into your power bank, and you walk away from it, it's charging. You come back and it's stopped charging. But if you unplug it and you plug it back in, it starts charging again. Well, that does me no good whatsoever for a power bank or cords or whatever I'm doing wrong in an emergency situation. I can't have that. That can't be. So we need an answer for that. And, I'm glad that I chose to do this experiment here, because I'm learning these things. Another thing is, if you'll remember, when we started off the whole video, I had invested in a special type of cable that had all the different types of connectors and everything. I've stopped using that for this because it's not reliable. That was a 100 watt capable cable, and it was not working well with these things. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm looking forward to anybody out there, electricians, anything like that, who can give us some details about that. That just can't be. It can't be. It's fine tonight here in my little alien invasion camp, because it's all pretend. There's not really any aliens out there trying to destroy humanity at the moment. And so it's in this setting, it's an inconvenience. But you can imagine, if I'm really out in the woods tonight, or I'm in an encampment or something like that, I need to know what my electronics are doing, what my cables are doing, what is charging, how fast they're charging, and everything like that. It's the whole reason for this video. So I would love more information on that if you know things about that. And again, I've said it before. It's not just with this power bank. It's happened. So out back in the spring, I went on this excursion into the mountains, into the wilderness. On the first morning, the second morning, plugged in my lamp and my power bank into my solar panel. Had beautiful sunlight that morning. When I plugged them both in, they were both charging. As soon as I stepped away, they both stopped charging. So, again, I need to understand what's going on here, so that for my own benefit, but also so that I can pass this information on to people who watch this channel. All right, so we've had the headlamp running for an hour. Let's go ahead and turn that off. That's done for the night. It's done its duty. Remember, we're like in an encampment or something. Flashlight, same thing. Turn that off. It's done its duty. We're trying to recreate like how much these things would get used under normal circumstances in an emergency situation. The lamp we're going to run all night as a nightlight. The radio, of course, it ran for an hour, and it's still got juice. I can't believe that, by the way. This little cheap radio still got juice. I don't know how much juice it had to start off with. Walkie-talkies, we're going to keep running those all night, because we're not transmitting on them, remember. If we were transmitting on them, that's when they really use up their juice. And then there's one other thing that you haven't heard me mention for a little bit. It's this thing here, which tells me temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius. And it also, the bottom number there is 69%, 68%, 67%. That tells me humidity in the air. That's useful. That's useful for knowing the likelihood of rain or snow and stuff like that. I'm not going to charge that. It's still got a really good power. I'm just going to power it off. And we're just going to assume that I would only be powering that on from time to time to use it when I specifically needed it. So I think that's all. Another thing is the electric lighter. On the first night, we talked about trying to drain that and everything like that. I don't think it's necessary. I think this thing will hold a charge to start a million fires before it ever needs a recharge. So even though it is something that runs off an electric charge, for our little experiment here, I just don't think it's worth the trouble to use it and try to drain it and then try to recharge it, because I think this thing could go weeks, literally weeks, using it every day, starting fires even with rain and wet conditions, and it would never run out under normal use. So we're going to give up on assuming that we need to charge that or do anything specific with that. Is there anything else I want to talk about tonight before we call it quits and go to bed? Yes, there's one last thing I want to talk about, and this is the most important probably, especially when the forecast is not behaving, it's not cooperating, and you don't know when you're going to get a really nice day of sunlight so that you can really top off all of these things, including your power bank. What's just as important as your solar charger and your power bank? What's just as important is having the brains to conserve the energy in your devices that you've got. What that means is, if I'm uncertain about when I'm going to get to charge my phone or when I'm going to have a sunny day so that I can top off my power bank, it means that I may have to start powering my phone down completely. I mean completely. So when I go to bed, instead of leaving the phone on, even if I am in an emergency situation, it would mean powering my phone down completely overnight. It would mean not sleeping with this light on, my lantern, on all night long. I do it because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this whole video, I like this lantern specifically because it can go like 4 or 5, maybe even more nights, running it all night long and still have energy left over. But when things are really hairy and you're getting days like I'm getting right now, rain, gray, snow, no real brilliant sunlight to run your solar charger and to power up your power bank, and the power on your power bank starts running down, like we're right down at 86%. It should be a lot lower than that, because I was trying to completely top off my phone, and at some point it friggin' stopped. I'll tell you, that's so frustrating for me. I'm not even in an emergency. I mean, besides the alien invasion, wink, wink, I'm not in an actual emergency situation right now. But what's frustrating to me is the thought of what if I were in a real emergency situation and I was just now finding this out. That is a frustrating thought. And so, this thing should be down now in like the 70s, my power bank. And it's not, because it shut off from charging my phone at some point over the last hour. When you've got a high-capacity power bank and you're charging your headlamps, your flashlights, and all this stuff, and you start getting down to like 50%, and you don't know when you're going to get sunlight or a good moment. Let's say you do have plenty of sunlight. You just don't have the time to sit around, prop up your solar panel, and wait around for your power bank to charge back up to 100%. When you don't get that, either of those two things, no sunlight or no time to take advantage of the sunlight, that's when you really, the next order of business is in preservation, conservation, not running your lamp all night, turning your phone off completely when it's not in use, not running your radio for an hour, but rather just turning it on for 5-10 minutes to try to get up to date on things and then turn the thing back off. Things like that. For all of my life, up until, I'm not kidding you, up until maybe the last year, I never had solar or rechargeable anything. And I would go out on week-long excursions into the woods, and I got by just fine by packing a few extra batteries along, but primarily conservation of resources, not running my lamps all night, powering my phone completely, and not powering my phone completely off just at night. But if I were hiking along and I realized I don't have a signal As soon as I realized I didn't have a signal, like I'm down in a holler or something like that, I would power my phone off completely. The only times I would power my phone on, now I'm talking about for years I did it this way, was if I got up to a real high spot, like on the top of a mountain. I would power my phone on, see if I could get a signal, see if any messages had come through or anything like that, see if it was an opportunity to make any phone calls I needed to make, and then I would power it right back off. As soon as I started down that mountain, back down into the hollers or back down into the lower areas. So conservation combined with your solar power, I mean, it's just as an important skill to master and an important thing to understand as all this other stuff we're talking about. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to go try to get some sleep so that I can wake up rested and have a clear mind. Remember, clear mind is probably the most important thing, so that I can make the best decisions tomorrow as I'm fleeing the alien invasion. Hope you all folks have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you in the morning. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. This experiment ain't over yet. See you in the morning. %, it says. I'll show you something here. This is actually charging. Pull this around. You see that blinking right there? That means that it is actually taking a charge. Even with the sun the way it is. Let me show you the sun. That's all the sunlight we got coming down right now. And yet, the solar panel is charging here. It is taking a charge. Now, how much of a charge is a whole other question. But remember, we're just trying to get what we can, given the circumstances we're dealing with. So, and it's snowing. So we'll leave that out there for a half hour, and then we'll come back and see if it's done anything whatsoever. If it even pops it up to 67%, better than nothing, ain't it? We didn't even get a single jump, but things are getting wet. We gotta move things inside. Well, here we are. The end of day 3. We learned some things, didn't we? It was not a failure. We learned the true nature of working with solar power while on the move, on foot, running from aliens. Here I am in my encampment for tonight. And let's check the radio. Do we still have power on the radio? Let's see. Well, music's playing, so apparently the military has scared off the aliens, because otherwise we'd hear some journalist or a reporter on there telling us that we all need to be terrified and continue hiding and stuff like that. The fact that they're playing music is a good sign. That goes to show you that without being able to recharge this little cheap radio, it done us good for 3 days, didn't it? And we ran it for an hour each night. It's still got power. That's a good sign. How about our walkie-talkies? Let's check those.
Power on. 5.
All right, so the walkie-talkies also still have power here on the third day. So that's a good thing. Our flashlight. We ran our flashlight for an hour each night. It's still got juice. What about our headlamp? Headlamp still has juice. We ran it for an hour every night. Where's my lamp? Folks, my lamp is completely spent. And I told you throughout this whole thing that I thought that would last a long time. I'm wondering if I didn't accidentally leave that on when I packed it up this morning. That might have been the case. At any rate, the lamp is not working. So that would need a charge tonight. Let's go ahead and put that on there. Oh, where is our power bank at? I mean, what's it on? It's on 66% now. When I left yous all last night, I plugged my phone into that and I just left it plugged in all night. I think when we left off, it was in the 80s. So now it's down to 66%. We're on the third day. I've still got 66% juice in this thing. So that's not bad. Again, it's a beast of a power bank, 50,000 milliamp hour. Could we get by for another 3 days? Well, it really depends. You know, I'd have to recharge my lamp here, my little lantern, because I'm almost positive that the reason why that's spent is because all day today it's been on, and all night last night, and I forgot to turn it off this morning when I packed it in my pack and came out here to do this work. But so I would have to charge my lamp again, and that would probably siphon off another 15 to 20% off my power bank. What else? We've got our lighter, our electric lighter. Again, that doesn't need a recharge. That's good for 10 gajillion trillion fires, I'm sure, even in wet conditions. How about our little thermometer weather device here? Turn that on. Looks like it's got plenty of battery. Where's my phone at? After having charged that all night last night, and look, been using it all day, it's at 93%. So we're not in terrible shape. We're not in terrible shape. As you saw earlier in this presentation, it's been snowing, sleeting off and on all day, and I did try to put my power bank out there and get a charge on it, but whether it actually charged, I'm sure it didn't do nothing. I'm sure it charged a little bit, but not enough to register on my power bank. So we've talked about a lot of different things in this little experiment here. But what it really goes to show you, doesn't it, is that you're going to have issues with like your cables, with things stop for no apparent reason, not charging when you walk away. So that's going to require a lot of close attention. You can't just plug a thing into your power bank, walk away, and assume you come back after a half hour's worth of work or an hour's worth of work around your camp or whatever, that it's just not a certain thing that thing's going to be charging the whole time. And I'm curious, I suspect that that has something to do with how these electronics receive energy, and also how the power bank gets a signal to put out the energy. And so depending on the age of some of these things, the power bank might be newer, have newer technology than these other devices do. You know, when you plug these devices into a wall outlet, they charge no problem. There's just something about charging them off of a power bank where they're not getting the same type of signal to continue charging or something like that. Again, there's got to be some electricians out there or somebody who's watching this who would understand the issue. And if you would comment in the comments there, that would be wonderful. It really give the rest of us some insight into understanding what's going on there and how to avoid a thing shutting off when you're in an emergency situation. You need to reliably understand these devices, what they need, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and those sorts of things. Again, in a little play scenario here, like we've been doing here the last 3 days, not a big deal. But what's minorly frustrating in this situation would be maddening in a real emergency. So I'd like to understand those things. And of course, I'm going to be doing some research. One thing I learned is that from my flashlight here, I'm going to go away from these types of flashlights that don't have any visual way of knowing how much charge that flashlight's got to something like this. This flashlight here that I'm holding up, it's got an actual number power indicator right on the side, and since things like that exist, there's no reason to carry something that gives you no idea whatsoever about how much power it's got left over, how fast it's charging, if it's charging, and things like that. So I'm definitely going to go to a flashlight like the one I just showed off here in the camera. Anything else? I hope that this has been beneficial to you folks who think that you're just going to throw a solar panel in your emergency bag or in a backpack, and in your imagination, you're set. There's nothing else to worry about. You're just going to have limitless power and stuff like that. As you can see from this experiment, that is not the true nature of the thing. The true nature of the thing is just like I randomly picked this time to do a show on this topic. The weather did what the weather did. And that's what I had to work with. That's real life. It's not going to stop me from carrying solar panels, because eventually you will get a sunny day and you will get a moment where you will be able to stop, position those things, your solar panel correctly in the sunlight, and charge everything to your heart's content. Take the day off from hiking or fleeing danger, and the day will come. I don't know when it's going to come for me, hopefully in the next couple of days, because it's been a gray few days. One last thing I want to follow up on that I was talking about last night was how hanging a solar panel off your backpack and just walking that way all day doesn't work. I don't think I explained why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because solar panels need to be aligned really well with direct sunbeams. That's really the most efficient way that they work. They don't really do that great just taking, kind of casually taken in sunlight. They need the sun glaring right down on it directly. That's why you often see that's why I had the solar panel tilted today toward the sun. That's why they don't work. They work, this big blue 28 watt works fantastically when I'm stationary, I'm not moving around, I've got it sitting in one place staring straight at the sun. That's how these things work. And so that's the whole reason why it's not worth the trouble hanging them off your backpack and then just hiking all day long. It's also why in our little imaginary scenario here, the times where the solar panel could be used had to be times where I was stationary. I'm in camp in the morning, or I'm in camp in the evening, or I'm stopping in the middle of the day for lunch or just to rest my legs or whatever. That's the reason why I created those scenarios for the times that I could stop and try to top off my power bank with my solar panel. Didn't get a lot of those days, did we? Didn't get a lot of those moments. But that's the program. Demonstrates very well the true nature of solar panels, and I hope that you find it useful in really fine-tuning your concept or your imaginary nature of these things, how they're going to be useful, how useful they're going to be, their weaknesses and their drawbacks, and all, everything involved with that. So I really appreciate you guys joining me. Just one announcement. Our online community over at thepracticalwoodsman.locals.com, or by going to the App Store and downloading the locals.com app from the App Store and just searching for The Practical Woodsman within. We'd love to see you over there. And that's all for this program. Y'all take care, and I'll see you in the next one.